Well, who's on first?
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk. Who? The guy on first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Who is on First. Thank you for listening and checking us out. It is officially baseball season. That is Brian Kaplinger and Michael, and I'm Tim Ellebrook, and we are pumped. How you doing, boys?
I'm good. Michael, you?
Excellent, dude. As soon as that game ended last night, it was baseball season officially, but the Colts lost out of the playoffs early. Notre Dame missed the college football playoffs, so it's been baseball season for a month and a half for me.
Same. Just waiting for the moment to end. Just counting down the moments. I paid attention to the NFL playoffs a little bit, but man, it was a dull of a game anyway.
Hey, that defense! You got to give props to Seattle's defense. I mean, they stole the show. They
did. The one thing I did read is, obviously there's a lot to talk about with the Patriots' schedule and everything in that talking point, but I did think it was interesting. The one thing I read is the Seahawks defense didn't blitz almost all year, and so the Patriots offense didn't think to prep for that, and then I guess they just could never catch up. But also, dude, May is just sailing throws to nobody constantly.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, there's no one there.
Yeah, some of that, you get guys bearing down in your face. It's hard to be accurate.
Yeah, it's easy for me to talk about, for sure. But with all that being said, before we get started, give us a like and follow on at WOFBB podcast. That would be awesome. Made a new friend at our local Target a couple weeks ago, so shout out. That was a lot of fun. Let's jump right in, fellas. So I want to talk about this week, the off season. So the pitchers and catchers reporting date is today for those participating in the WBC, and then the report date for actual pitchers and catchers, I think, is tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow is the actual official regular report day, and then everybody else reports Thursday. So that means the off season's pretty much exclusively almost over. Obviously, stuff can happen through the entire year, but I want to talk about the winners and losers of said off season. But I kind of hate that topic. I kind of want to more look at it from the landscape of which team got better, which team got worse, for those teams that are, trying to contend and trying to get better versus, those that are not. So like the Athletics, the Cardinals, they're not trying to contend, they're trying to rebuild. But let's do it. So give me a team that you guys, give me the number one team for you, or one of the teams for you that you feel like really improved the most based on the objective that they had. Who wants to go first? I guess Brian go first since Michael.
Oh, he's going to throw me under the bus. All right. I was trying to think there. I mean, there's a number of teams that I really like. Especially what they've been able to do. Narrowing down a winner, because here's the thing, and this is going to sound like such a homerish take, but even though they're not going to be in contention for anything, I really think the Cardinals set out and did what they wanted to do. To me, they won the offseason for them. Now it's not going to translate to on the field unless some special things take place within that, but I fought it all day thinking about this topic a little bit. Did I really want to put them in that category? But for me, that was a big one. If you want me to say somebody outside of, just the local market, for me, it's so tough because again, it's going to sound stupid, but I think, the Dodgers did what they set out to do. They just got better in the course of things. For me, I think a lot of national media is down a little bit on what Baltimore did, but I really like what they added in comparison to their team and the money that they're going to spend. So so for me, I would say like those three teams are probably high on my list. Seattle is coming in close, especially now that, they landed Donovan in that sense. It wasn't a big off season for them, but I think they were able to stabilize what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I think for me, if push come to shove right now, outside of like what I would consider potential contenders, I really like what Baltimore did. And again, that may be a little homerish on me because originally I'm from the East Coast, but I really like what they did for their team.
Yeah, Baltimore, I mean, it made solid moves. I think they did a lot of their stuff early, so it gets overlooked with everything that happens afterwards. It was a small amount of moves if you look at, transaction pages of all the teams. But I mean, they accomplished all of their goals. They added pitching, they added hitting, multiple hitters. So yeah, I don't disagree. Michael, you want to go next?
Yeah, I had the Blue Jays were one of my top teams. I feel like they made a lot of really solid moves that made a lot of sense. Obviously, Cease piece. There's potential upside and downside there, depending on what guy you get. If he's the guy he was a couple years ago, they got that ace that they really need, barring that kid being able to do Savage being able to do what he did in the playoffs. At a constant rate, but you don't have to have that pressure on him with him. And they didn't blow out some major contract either. They didn't end up with the Kyle Tucker. They didn't end up with Bo Bichette, and so they didn't spend $400 million on somebody this offseason, which could help them potentially in the future. Now, I think both those players would have been value add to that team, but at the same time, they're not players I think they had to have, especially after what we saw in the playoffs. Brian, I was right there with you on Baltimore, too. Baltimore, I felt like, was kind of that under-the-radar squad that made really solid moves for what they needed, but not necessarily what everybody kind of saw coming. And, I try not to mention the Cubs too much, but they made some pretty solid moves this offseason.
Hey, they were on my list.
Hey, it's okay. You can be a little bit of a homer, too. It's all good.
I will say this. I was impressed with what Bloom did for the Cardinals in the offseason because he did make those moves that we haven't seen Mozeliak make here in years past. And so it does kind of hint at a kind of changing of the guard and that things are changing truly here in St. Louis. So intrigued to see what that looks like. Obviously your big acquisition, I guess, is Dustin May. But like you said, you guys aren't necessarily building for this year. It's all the prospects that you picked up along the way and dumping contracts that, you definitely didn't need on a roster that's definitely in a rebuild mode. But, yeah, Chicago, I mean, it's hard for me to not say they did a lot of what they needed this offseason. I mean, Bregman was the piece I didn't see happening that happened, and, the longer I've kind of sat on it, the more we kind of discussed it. He might fit the Cubs better than Kyle Tucker did and might actually benefit the team, greater than what we actually saw from Tucker. The first couple months of Tucker were incredible, obviously, but after that it really was pretty mid as far as all that goes. My third team, the real team, was the Mets. They did nothing, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Mets started making some moves that I think really will benefit them. Obviously, part of that depends on Freddie Peralta. Is Freddie Peralta what we got out of him last year, or is Freddie Peralta that we got for several years where for half the season this guy's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and then all of a sudden he's giving up home runs all over the place. It's just hard to say what we're going to get with the guy, but added a great bat in Bo Bichette. They got rid of two pieces in Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil that I don't think were pieces that were helping them win anymore. So they got a lot in place that I think is definitely going to benefit that team. But 3 weeks ago, it didn't look that way. 3 weeks ago when we talked, it was like, what are the Mets doing out here? Like, they're just making some goofy decisions. But, kudos to that team. They had a objective in mind, and they had to pivot a little bit, I think, with Tucker signing elsewhere, but they made some good, solid decisions, I think.
Yeah, I want to touch the Blue Jays for a minute because I was really thinking about them. I mean, they made it to the World Series last year, so the only thing they didn't do is win it. Like not like any other team that's trying to get better. Like the Mets didn't even make it. And what lost them the World Series was their pitching. They didn't have enough starting depth, and they added Dylan Cease. They added Cody Ponce, which Cody Ponce is don't know, but could really, really high upside. Dylan Cease is awesome, but I didn't want to include him because they intended to get Tucker or Bichette as well as what they did, and they missed out on both. They did add Okamoto, which hypothetically we don't know, but profiles to be a really good piece for them. But for someone who made for a team that made the World Series, and it's time to go, and a team that also has a lot of money in comparison to other teams, I felt like, and we don't know, why did Kyle Tucker choose one place over the other? Why did Bichette end up going somewhere else? They just didn't. To me, in my mind, they didn't complete their goals. They did add a lot of what they need, and they could make it back and win at this time. And my point's kind of moot, but that's why I was just kind of like, I feel like they could have, but you never know what's in players' minds.
I mean, I would almost argue, and this is just me maybe being a little petty with that point for like in Toronto, but the fact that I felt like their pitching held up in that series because they're literally 1 or 2 bounces of a ball difference, and they win that game in 6, and we're not even talking about the fact that they're pitching. I mean, yes, the home run by Rojas, I think it was, that ended up ultimately tying the game, was a big deal. And yes, they had to lean on some of their relievers way more than anybody else. And so I think I don't want to argue your point and say you're absolutely wrong on that side of things, but it's like the 2 pitchers they've added are, have potential to be tremendous. I think if anything, the validation of your point is the fact that I don't necessarily see any addition to the offensive side of the ball for Toronto that really gets them over the edge unless some of these prospects or players that they brought in really outperform what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're placing a lot on what Clement and Lucas and those guys did in the playoffs to do it in the season, because if you think about it, the Blue Jays are a year removed from not making it the year before. So their hitting as a team is just one of the best in the game.
Sure.
But I do think they are putting a lot on hey, these guys, Ernie Clement is the hits leader in the playoffs in baseball. He's going to do that in the whole season, right? Maybe. But they lost Bichette to me, and I think you're right. The hitting took a little more hit because Bichette was injured for part of the year for sure, but that dude's bat, especially paired with those guys, Vladdy, and that's a big miss. Okamoto could end up doing the same thing. We don't know. Yeah. He's got a really good hit tool in his profile. They did add good bullpens, Tyler Rogers was added as a good thing. But I just think about the starting really, really let them down throughout the entirety of the postseason, or throughout the entirety of the World Series. Sure, their first run through the rotation, but they're pulled really quickly, and the Dodgers just out-depth them with really, really good pitching. And that's why I think the Cease move and the Cody Ponce move is good. Cease is good. Do you want Cease starting Game 7, or do you want Max Scherzer starting Game 7? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think. I mean, we're forgetting too. Gosman's still there.
Yep.
Yes, but Bassett's gone, and they didn't want him to pitch. You know what I mean? So they're not a worse team. They're not a worse team, but I think they could have gotten better.
100%. I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just don't think that they made any moves that were necessarily detrimental to the team.
100%
going backwards.
They're a little neutral to me, I guess would be the right word
That's
for
fair.
it.
Yeah.
So my two picks, one of them's sneaky. One of my main pick is actually the Mets. I agree with Michael. If you look at their transaction page and just the additions, it is massive. But they set out to get better defense and just turn the roster over of all of the guys that weren't doing it before. And I mean, they did the exact same thing. I do wonder, with all the reports with Soto and Lindor, what is real there? What isn't real? What's the clubhouse going to be like? But I do know Marcus Semien is a heck of a defender, and now the oldest guy in the clubhouse. He's going to be the leader there, and he'll be good for everybody. He has a really high projected WAR, which I think is crazy. His projected WAR next year is 3.1, which is kind of high. But they added a ton of pitching. Luis Robert. Man, he could be great. I know Brian's a big fan of Lou Bob.
Not anymore. I don't like him in New York.
He could be a guy that's below the Mendoza line, or he could be a guy, that's an all-star from 23. But he's a killer defender as long as he stays healthy, too. The big sneaky winner of the offseason for me, because if you look on paper, you're like, what? But the Rays. If you look at the Rays transaction page, it's nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at like WAR added versus WAR lost, it's pretty much neutral. But then you got to it's the Rays factor. It's like, okay, what the heck is this team doing? Because they kind of middled all last year. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, they had like 5 3-team deals and just like they did all this stuff. And I'm like, there's something going on. They're probably going to win the East.
Yeah, out of nowhere again.
That's an exaggeration, but I just sneaky. Like they just signed Nick Martinez as well.
Yep.
Gavin Lux is probably going to turn into a superstar from the left side against right-handed pitching.
Probably.
Jake Woodford's probably going to be an ace. I'm kidding on that one. But Steven Matz is probably going to become an elite pitcher, and then at the end of it, gain them something, and then go get hurt.
Yep.
And he's a good dude. I'm not wishing him that. But it's just like I'm looking at him like, whoa, these guys did something. And that's in a division where the Yankees are there, Toronto's there, Boston is making a bunch of moves, and they could be really good, or they, like you're saying earlier, Brian, they could be really bad. I'm just kind of in on the Rays. I don't know any of these names, but that just kind of means they're probably all going to be really good.
Yeah.
Typical Rays fashion.
Yeah.
Right?
I look at it and I think you're right. Like, I think they'll middle for a little bit and then all of a sudden they'll get hot and they'll be right back in it. Like they always are. I guess the bigger question to me is for the Rays offensively outside of Caminero and Aranda, what are they getting? That's going to be the biggest thing. Now, granted, their home games are going to be played in a minor league ballpark again. So there's going to be some inflation to that. But when I look at, again, if Gavin Lux does somehow hit, his stride, that's a big help. But everybody else on that list, I just look at it and it's just they're nice.
Yeah.
But they don't scream at me.
Yeah, it's because we have no idea who any of them are. I'm adding the Rays' WAR value is different than every other team's WAR value.
Sure.
Because they're the Rays.
It's weird. I'll be honest with you. It's weird because it's they get the most out of every player they ever sign. And I don't know how they do that.
And then they go somewhere else and they're
they're
not good.
Like Boz, I think is tremendous pitcher when he's in Tampa Bay. Watch this year, he'll have a 7 ERA because he's not in Tampa Bay anymore.
Yeah. My other team, I do agree with you, Brian. I think the Dodgers probably improved the most, especially compared to the way they just won their second ring in a row, and they just added 6.5 WAR. No. They added more than that. And they got rid of everybody with a negative WAR value. So, man, that's a tough look for the rest of the league in the sense of holy cow, these guys just won the second time and they just got way, way, way better. And you can't fault them for that. I mean, like, they're killing it. They're winning. As long as everybody stays healthy and makes it to October. I mean, I would say they're probably the favorites. Now it's still baseball and everything's random and they could, get bounced still, but I wouldn't put a bet on that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and obviously they have the means to go do this. Even mid-season is going to be their secondary players is always going to be the question mark for me. Just because of the simple fact, if some of their key starters on the offensive side get hurt, they're going to be heavily reliant on prospects unless they go find somebody, which again, they have the means to do that. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, just to think, like, you got rid of Michael Conforto, who is negative 0.6 WAR, and you replaced him with Kyle Tucker, who is 4.5 WAR.
It could have been a lot higher than that had he not spent, a month and a half injured and then a month and a half recovering from that injury playing.
Yep. And he's probably going to be able to platoon a little bit more and stay healthy longer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Brian brought up a really good point before we move on to the next part. Is there any move that you guys saw that would have been individually would have been like a backfire? Like, ooh, I'm not sure about this. It could pay off a lot, or it could backfire a lot.
I'll let you go, Michael.
Well, part of that I think is, excuse me, the Tigers' decision to sign Framber Valdez.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
And not just sign him, but they signed him for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is this? What did he get? 3 years or 5 years? 3-year contract. Yeah, like 32 million or something. 35 million.
I think it's 30. I think it worked out to 38 a year.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of smoke about that happening during the arbitration case, and I think it was blown out of proportion because offices can do two moves at the same time and they don't have anything to do with each other. But I will say that whole case is interesting because Scooble's not coming back to Detroit. They're not going to be able to pay him the amount of money that
likely not.
He has earned with his talent. So it's like I give it to the team for keeping him and like, hey, we're gonna win. This is the last year. Let's go for it. But they didn't exactly make enough moves to say let's go for it.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about it a little bit, Tim, like before we got on. But like Pittsburgh to me is so intriguing this year because they're one of those teams that like if everything goes right, they could be very dangerous. We already know the pitching they have is good.
Right.
And then you start to talk about the likes of like O'Hearn going there. Ozuna's now there. Ozuna, even though it's not a high risk in my opinion, but like, if he's miserable, it's just a roster spot wasted. I mean, unless you're willing to DFA him, O'Hearn, again, could be great, that's the contract in Pittsburgh that I'm watching. Because if he falls apart, that's going to be wasted money, especially in a market like Pittsburgh. I don't necessarily expect them to compete as far as like for the division in that. I mean, if I'm honest, I think the Cubs are going to end up running away with this unless they run into some major hiccups as far as like injuries, things like that could slow them down. But then on the other side of it, I think, in the NL Central, it was like a bunch of teams risk because like as much as I like Geno going back to Cincinnati, that could be a huge waste of money for a young team like Cincinnati that could have probably used that money to garner a couple other different role playing positions because they were one of those teams I felt like was just, a couple, pitchers to add with like Lodolo and Green away from really making them a playoff contender. Now again, I'm not going to say they would make a deep run in the playoffs, but I think they could get there on that side. And then for me, like, I know I like what the Mets did, but man, they are putting some risk on a lot of players. I mean, Polanco being the big one. You're asking him to play a position he's never really played.
And Bichette.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing to Bichette. And then again, as much as I love Lubob, like, I mean, I thought the dude was going to be an immense stud. I thought he just needed to get out of Chicago. But I think if he went to anywhere else other than the Mets, I might feel a little bit different that he could rebound. But I feel like the Mets just crush people like him.
Also true.
And I have a feeling like the media and the national attention that comes with it, it's not the Yankees, but like he's going to be compared to whomever's playing in the outfield of the Yankees that he's going to have to compete with. So like, I mean, nobody's going to compare him to Judge, but at the same token, he's going to have to compete with the likes of Bellinger. And then if Dominguez gets hot playing left field for them, everybody's going to compare him to that to some degree, and he's going to feel that heat to have to produce. And maybe it's a good thing. Like, I mean, I hope I'm proven wrong, because maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, you never know which guy is going to buckle under pressure or are going to, be able to take it. I do agree with you with Polanco and Bichette in New York. Signing those guys and giving them the money they have to, and assuming they're just going to be able to transition fine. I mean, offices have more information than we do, as fans and people in media, but still that is, I agree with you. It is an interesting risk also associated with the fact that they said they want to get better defensively. And they did. I mean, bringing Marcus Semien in, replacing Jeff McNeil at second base is a massive defensive upgrade.
Yeah.
And I mean, Lubob is hypothetically an elite defender, but then you do those two infield moves, and you're like, but now your infield's kind of bad again. And it could not be,
To be fair, I don't think that's like, even if Polanco's bad, he's still not really going to hurt you with that being Alonso having been the guy there. The Bichette piece there at third base, that's where you're like, could there be a massive dip in defense? With Alonso was a bad first baseman.
Yeah. But go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say the thing with it too is Brett Beatty's just sitting there, and he's had a really good season. He's a pretty decent third base, our defender at third base. Bichette is not a good defender in general and moving in position, 100%. But at the same time, with the age of Bichette, you can't really DH him either.
No.
So.
He's got to play, right?
Yeah,
he's got to play on that side. But I guess that's what I think I'm, a little dumbfounded by, is you're going to introduce a player to play first base for the first time, and then you go get a guy who's going to play third base really for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
This is somebody now that has to learn how to pick the ball, how to have feet placement at first base.
Sure.
And he's got to do all of that while also fielding throws from somebody who might not be as accurate as a general, a normal third baseman. I think it has the potential to compound it. And then again, what do you do in left field? Like, all of this, they have done nothing other than maybe one of our young guys is going to step up. So it screams to me that there could be a world in which we see Brett Beatty learning how to play left field. And so you're going to
I think that's where he's going.
You're talking about another player moving to the outfield to figure it out, like somebody to figure it out. I mean, and now, again, they could all have been missing this their whole lives, and these were the positions they were supposed to play from the beginning, and it's a moot point.
Yeah.
But to me, that's where, like, for the Mets, there's such a big risk for all this money that you're throwing out there.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the angle of off-season moves that could backfire, and these are more moves that didn't happen that should have, and I'm going to call out Boston and the Yankees. The Yankees are running it back with the same exact team they had last year, and assuming that pitcher health is going to be fine, and it could be. I mean, Garrett Cole's been a workhorse up to this point until he had this particular surgery, but he's going to be delayed a little bit, and this window of contention with Judge has a clock to it.
True.
He's been pretty healthy and the best player in baseball, but you're just running it back. Like, it didn't work out. and
Yeah,
you
and
got
you-
bounced.
And
I mean,
some
they
of those,
did go to 5 games, but
some of those guys they keep around, like a Grisham type guy. He had a career year last year.
yeah.
Does he do that again this year? I
Does he
truly
even
don't
play?
know.
Like,
right?
It still comes off as like they're not sure if they want to keep him, but they can't get rid of him because they can't get rid of him for some reason. Paul DeYoung agreed to a minor league contract for the Yankees. I didn't realize that. And then the same thing
Oof.
with Boston was more missing out for Alex Bregman. He wanted to be there, but they whiffed the deal and didn't give him no trade clause, which I just think is dumb. And they got better. They got so much better as a team. They added some really good pitching. They brought in Wilson Contreras, who's going to be a really good first baseman, especially when they don't know what Tristan Casas is going to be yet. They're not sure, and he can DH. That's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I feel like that could be, and it could, like you said, Brian, earlier, it could work out, and they could be a killer team, and that could be a moot point. But I feel like, especially in the Yankee sense, I feel like that's going to be a backfire, man.
Yeah.
Like, they got bounced early. They went from the World Series to getting bounced in the DS, and they didn't do anything to make their team better. That is, I don't know. I feel like that's a backfire waiting to happen in New York City.
I think,
mean, go ahead,
go
Michael.
ahead, Brian. No, go, Brian.
Nope. I mean, with the Yankees, it doesn't surprise me because I think they're good enough to be in contention, and they have the ability and the means and the money to make themselves better at the trade deadline. That's why I don't think it's such a big deal. I mean, I know Yankees fans, they want the big names. They would have loved nothing more for Kyle Tucker to be the name that we're talking about with New York. But I actually, like, when you start looking at their roster, it's the same, but it's a good lineup. Like, again, even if Trent Grisham regresses a little bit, I mean, you've got Ben Rice, who seems to be emerging. And I feel like he's going to step up. You've got Bellinger back, who lit it up in New York. Like, I feel like getting him back was a big deal. And they got him back, I think, less than they anticipated.
Yeah.
Really, they were going to have to pay to get him. So, that's a win-win. I mean, some of the question marks for me is like, what does Jason Dominguez really become? Because right now, I don't know that he has a spot on this team. He might end up back in AAA, in that regard. Maybe the fourth outfielder at this point, if he's lucky.
Yeah, he's not even on the roster.
Right, that's what I mean. So, like, I think, like, I do like the fact that they brought Paul Goldschmidt back, and he'll be able to platoon with Rice. I think the bigger question really for the Yankees, and you alluded to it, Tim, is going to be the health of their players, because their pitching, I think, has a chance to be really, really good. Yep. I mean, Fried's still there. Schlittler's there. Will Warren has a chance to be really, really good. Weathers, I'm interested to see how it'll pan out there in New York for him. And then we know what Gil can be.
Yep.
And then you already said it. You've still got their ace waiting in the wings. He's not going to have to rush back. And then their bullpen, I would say, rivals what the Dodgers has put together in their bullpen. And they've all pitched there for a year now. They understand New York.
Yeah, they lost Luke Weaver, and they lost Devin Williams. Now, I mean, Devin Williams didn't have the greatest year of all time in New York last year. He had a really good second half, though. But yeah, I don't know. It feels weird because things just didn't work. Like, they had the best offense in baseball. Like, they did. You look at the numbers, and they have the same exact players. So on paper, it's like, why should we do anything different? But I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the right direction. And I mean, that's just me from someone, as a fan and in media. But I feel like they needed to do the kind of somewhat like what Boston is doing and what the Mets are doing. Like, the couple of these things just aren't working, and you keep doing it over and over again. Just change them out for something else. Maybe those deals weren't there. I don't know. But that's kind of how I look at it. And I feel like that's going to backfire. But it could take them to the World Series. That's not out of the equation either.
Yeah,
Because Trent Grisham, he had a career year in the history of the entire game for him.
Sure.
Him doing that again, I don't know, man.
Right. And I'm not saying that, but okay, he regresses a little and Ben Rice goes off to have a career year. And then also, let's say Jazz Chisholm ends up having a phenomenal year and it compensates. Like every year you're going to have players that are going to rise to like their high level. Like all of that comes into play. Again, baseball, they could all just crap the bed entirely.
Yeah.
And we're talking about them imploding at the end of the day. But like when I look at this, like for me, I think it made a lot of sense for New York to just say, we missed out on Kyle Tucker, like own that. We wanted Kyle Tucker. We did not get him. So we had to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And our pivot was, we're going to run it back. Like that was our pivot because we know, and this is, if I was in the front office, this is how I'd be communicating it to the fan base. Because we know we're going to be in it as far as in the AL East. We're going to be fighting for the division title. And come trade deadline, if we're there, we'll do what's required for us to get what we need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't disagree. Okay, let's do this real quick. If you really look at the AL East and how it stacks up, who's first, second, third, and fourth? Because we know who fifth is.
So for me, like I honestly think the Yankees have the best roster to win that division. Like I would put them as winning the division right now, and it's not just because of what I've said. Now
Garrett
that doesn't
Cole's
mean they're going to win the World Series.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I just think in the AL East, it's going to come down to the three teams, in my opinion. It's going to be Yankees, it's going to be Toronto, and I think Baltimore is going to make a play for it. I think Tampa Bay will be in the mix, and I could see a world if everything goes right for Boston that they're in the mix. But if you're telling me to bet on how the lineup's going to shift out, I honestly think it's going to end up like this, barring any catastrophic like fallouts as far as injuries. I think it's going to be the Yankees, Toronto, and Baltimore. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you go ahead, Michael.
That's the division's just such a mess. I mean, you alluded to it. Tampa Bay's in play, and on paper they shouldn't be, but they will be. I'd probably give the nod to Toronto because I think that Vladdy turned a page last year, and I think he's going to be in the MVP running this year. But obviously, that depends on the guys around him, what they're going to do. So I'd probably put Toronto 1, probably Yankees 2, but Baltimore, I really liked a lot of their moves, and obviously your boy that was here in St. Louis, the closer, I completely blank on his name. Helsley, yeah. I should have known that because I've actually met the guy, super nice guy. Helsley, if that move I think could be huge for them.
If he's right.
It's probably correct. You just don't know. Maybe he's spent. Maybe he's completely done.
Batista comes back for them too.
Yep.
Like we're forgetting that point, and Helsley gives him protection to heal up and get right.
And those young pieces, like I don't know. I just feel like they're starting to put it together. Late last year, that looked like they were starting to find it. If we get Gunnar back from what he was 2 years ago, not last year. I mean, Gunnar Henderson looked like he was ascending, kind of and be in that conversation with Bobby Witt. So, if we get that guy back, then I think this Baltimore team is, probably contending for number one, not just in the East, but overall. They were there 2 years ago, and that team, I think, is better now than they were then. So,
yeah, as I'm looking at the rosters, New York has the best pitching on paper by far. Toronto has the second best pitching. Then to be honest with you, I think it's Boston, then Tampa Bay, and then Baltimore. which is saying something because Baltimore's pitching isn't that bad. And the only reason I put the Rays above them is because I don't know. There's probably 5 starters down in AA that can start and blow everybody away. You know what I mean? And that's a little bit of a mean, but still, when I look at the rotation for Baltimore, it's not bad, but it's not great, and it's not elite like the Yankees rotation is.
Sure.
And Toronto's rotation is, it just did it last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They did lose Bassett, and it looks to be like he's not coming back. But they replaced Bassett with Cease, if you think about that, and that's a pretty decent, that's a pretty killer swap.
Yeah.
But Gossman, Cease, Bieber, Savage, Cody Ponce, and then how do you say his name? Barrios.
Barrios.
Which he's going to be number 6 out of them all. Man.
I mean, that's pretty good if you got a guy like Barrios that you can bury that far down in your rotation, because that's a guy that for some years was kind of in that Cy Young conversation. So,
and we also don't know if Bieber's fully right or not, because that whole offseason was just kind of weird with him.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees, you're right. The Yankees on paper probably have the best roster, but man, their defense is still. You know, like
we're going to outslug you, and our pitchers are going to strike everybody out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I get it. It's the same run back. I mean, we're going to score 15. Our defense will give up 13 errors and give you 12 runs, but we've got the 15.
The things we're not really talking about with any of it is like Seattle, Houston, and Texas. Like Texas had a sneaky offseason, and if there's only 6 teams in the playoffs, one of those divisions is probably taking 3 of them. Which means the Central can only get 1 team. So which 2 teams in the West? And so like Texas and Houston going at it will be interesting because Houston's not bad. They just got really hurt. Yeah. And that roster is still killer.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Houston's biggest question mark is going to be the depth of their starting pitching.
100%.
Like outside of that, they scare me as far as if I'm anybody else in the West, because they were so injured last year. And if this offense comes out and if this offense comes out on fire, like they could jump out to a big head start. I mean, obviously I think everybody's going to put Seattle as the front runner just because I think, what they were able to do last year. They didn't really lose anything this year. They got better.
Yep.
Losing Texas, Suarez and Polanco for Brendan Donovan, though.
Yeah, I mean, but I think their pitching is their pitching. It's still there. It's still solid. I like what Texas did. Like but I think Texas is also starting to kind of turn over the offensive range to the younger guys, with the exception of Seager. I mean, Seager's going to be Seager as long as he can play.
Yep.
Yeah. With that being said, let's move on to the next part. So I wanted to talk about going into spring training. So pitchers and catchers full rosters report Thursday and workouts start. First game for spring training starts next Saturday. So we are a week and 4 days.
Right.
As we're going into it for you guys, what are some things that you're going to be looking out for, specifics this time? Is there one team, 2 teams, 3 teams that you're specifically watching, and what on those teams are you looking towards? And then the second part of that, we'll talk about the Cardinals and Cubs. So don't include those 2 teams in this breakdown. Michael, you go first.
Okay. I mean, I guess one team I'm really curious to see what they're doing is the Padres. I mean, they're kind of in this weird phase where they need to be winning, but they didn't really make any moves. They lost Dylan Cease. The Dodgers got better. So what exactly is San Diego going to do with these pieces that they kind of have hanging out there? I don't foresee Tatis getting moved anytime soon, but, I mean, I don't think we're outside of the realm of possibility within the next couple of years that's a discussion that has to be had, because we know they've got money problems. They've overspent on that roster for years, and we saw it one year. They were able to get there, and they had the talent, but I'm very confused what they're doing right now out there in San
prediction,
Diego.
he's gone at the trade deadline. He'll be
Deadline?
the blockbuster deal at the deadline.
Tatis?
Not to St. Louis, we know that, but
No. I wish. I mean, I would dream if somehow we're in it. Go for it, brother. Go for it. Send the house. We got enough prospects now.
yeah.
Take all of them.
It's kind of interesting. I guess through spring training and, kind of early in the year, I'm really watching Milwaukee. We're talking this was a 97-win team last year, and from the moves they've made, I'm very confused where they're going to fall in place in the National League in general, let alone in the Central. And, maybe they decided they needed a year to step back to get better. I don't necessarily think moving Freddie was the wrong decision. But I'm a little confused the direction of where they're headed now, because they also move a guy like Durbin, who had a very nice season for them last year. And, maybe they think he peaked. That's the best they're going to ever get out of the kid. But, it seemed like they had this really great young roster built. Should have probably been adding some pieces, and they did not do that. But Milwaukee is Milwaukee. And they could come out and by the All-Star break, we're sitting here talking, how is Milwaukee up 6 games in the division, and they're a game back from the Dodgers for the best in National League. But I'm also curious, if they were willing to move some of those guys, or are they willing to move some of these other youngsters that they have on their roster? Because maybe they feel like they've got better guys down there in the pipeline. And maybe that's the case. I mean, I know they traded for that Jet Williams kid. I know within the next couple of years he's supposed to be a big deal. They got some obviously great pitching. But I'm really watching Milwaukee this year because I'm intrigued to see what they're doing up there. And, I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing that Milwaukee's always got, but this roster more than usual is kind of intriguing me. An American League team, I guess I would throw Baltimore on there as a team that I'm just really watching to see what they're doing, because I do think that they kind of have that same thing that I saw with Toronto last year, where it was like, if these pieces fall into place, this team could be special. And it worked out for Toronto last year, and some of the pieces that we didn't see coming, the Ernie Clements and Barger and some of those guys, they end up coming in big time. But is this the year we see Jackson Holiday finally step up and, he's an all-star or borderline all-star? Is Gunnar Henderson, beat Bobby Witt out for the starting shortstop for the all-star game? Probably not, but, that's the type of stuff that, I'm kind of watching with Baltimore. Their catching situation, it's super interesting. What they're doing there at first base. Obviously, their pitching, I think that they would have grabbed one other guy. But, maybe that's something they come through spring training, realize they need something else, and then they call Minnesota and say, look, here's what we got. We want Joe Ryan, whatever it's going to take, or Pablo Lopez, to get one of those two guys in that rotation. So, those are 3 teams I'm pretty intrigued to see what they're going to do here moving forward.
Yeah, Milwaukee's an interesting one for sure. Brian?
All right, so I'm going to start in the American League where Michael kind of left off, and I'll jump to my National League side real quick. But there's really just a couple in the American League. For me, one, I think it is Boston. I do want to see how some of these young pieces kind of fall into place, because you said it earlier, Tim, their pitching is tremendous.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get any life out of their offense with Willie there, some of these veterans that have kind of shown up, if they can kind of coax some of these young guns like Anthony, we forget Duran's still there. If Duran makes a return in some form to the offensive player he was, they could be very, very dangerous. So I want to see how that gels together. But for me, I think the biggest team on the American League side that I'm looking into is the Kansas City Royals. They're close to home. They've sneakily really made themselves quite good. As far as for the team that they are. I mean, you've still got Bobby Witt there, the Pasquatch. I mean, you've got Cag still there. Jonathan India is going to remain there. They made the trade for Isaac Collins from Milwaukee. You talked about, what Milwaukee was doing. Like, they've got a good team, and then we're not even talking about their pitching yet.
Yep.
And so, like, I think they could make a run at that AL Central title and surprise a lot of people along the way, because I think they're going to be really, really good on that side of it. For me, on the National League side, obviously I want to pay attention to what the Mets are doing, especially with the moves that they have. But I think the team for me that is really, really intriguing is Atlanta, because we're talking about a team that has tremendous offense, legit pitching still. They are just another team that was decimated by injuries.
Yeah.
And they haven't done a lot, but they haven't lost a lot either. And so it's like they could really rebound and be a threat in the East as far as, just mixing things up there.
Yeah. Those are good. Atlanta is definitely something on my watch. That offense is still ridiculous. I'm curious what the DH thing's going to be now, because the Big Bear is gone, and does that become a rotating, keep guys off their feet situation, or are they going to find, is there one of the bats that they think like that? Yeah, that's does Acuna become a DH because he's just an injury risk so much, but you take his arm out of right field, you lower his value that way. That is interesting. The two kind of things is like big broad pictures, obviously health. With the WBC happening, so many pitchers going into it this year, there is a lot of big name pitching going for the U.S. and just in general. So how does that come out? Because like I think about Skubal, Paul Skeens, the two biggest names, but they've never had to ramp up that quickly before.
Yep.
What is that going to do? So I'm going to be watching a lot of the health risks coming from that. A team I want to pay attention to, kind of in the same vein as you were talking about, Brian, with the Mets, like watching the clubhouse, so to speak. I'm really intrigued with San Francisco, because in the sense of like the Devers deal, he's going to have a full off season to know, what he's supposed to do, what player he is. How is that going to happen? And, how is everybody going to come together? Like, is he a first baseman? Is he a DH? What's going on? I know there was a lot of drama. Probably a bit of it blown out of proportion, but I'm going to pay attention to San Francisco, because if that can't get figured out, if Devers in that team, there's just conflict, that team's just not going to work. They put a lot of the chips in their basket to get him, and all the pieces they gave up. They got rid of some pitching depth for him, so I'm definitely watching their pitching depth. And then the Mets as well. I just want to see, all of these moves that they made were to fix defense and to get their clubhouse changed over. What does that look like on the field and in practice? What is the broadcast saying about it? What are reports saying about what happens? And then the other one is Philly. I don't know that there's much I'm going to learn from spring training from Philly necessarily, because there's so many pieces that are veterans, and they're not, I'm not looking at Philly's performance in spring training, but I would say that's a team I'm looking at I kind of place them in the New York sense of like, it's kind of risky that you're running it back again.
Agreed.
When it's not been working. You've been getting bounced for the same reasons. So they changed the pitcher out. Painter's coming in instead of Ranger Suarez. And, what's that going to look like? Dabrowski just came out. I think he said today in a report that they're looking for some more pitching depth. So like someone like Bassett is on their radar, because, that's a lot of pressure on Painter in his first season to replace Ranger Suarez. What does that look like? Does that fall apart? And then Nola and Wheeler. Wheeler's coming off a really big injury, and they are dependent upon him playing and pitching in game ones for all of it, because I heard him this year as well. And so Wheeler and Nola I'm paying attention to, and that's a little bit more of a health thing. But I would say those are the things. I do agree with you in Kansas City, though. I'd be interested for you guys if we were to look at the AL Central, who the best team is. And I feel like the White Sox are interesting, but I don't think there's a play for it. But I feel like the Royals are probably the number one team.
Yeah.
Even some more so than Detroit, honestly.
Yeah, because if you look at it, Cleveland sneaks in, wins the division late last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cleveland
But
has
that's
not
because
done
Detroit
anything.
just fell off a cliff.
Correct. Cleveland's not done anything. Detroit, you're hoping there's not this major distraction with everything with Scooball this offseason.
Right.
They didn't make any crazy major moves besides Framber Valdez definitely solidifies a 2 for them, which they definitely needed. But Kansas City probably has the highest peak to potential. I probably would currently still give it to Detroit just because the way that roster played last year as a whole, and Scooball is just an absolute dog. And Bobby Witt, as great as he was, could not make that team get to the playoffs in spite of as great as he was.
Right.
So, I'd probably give it to Detroit, but Kansas City definitely. I thought they'd be right there last year. I thought we were talking Kansas City, Cleveland, and Detroit were all going to be right there. But I don't foresee it. I think it's going to be Detroit again.
Yeah. And hey, let me throw something else out there. The A's are going to be absolutely fun to watch this year.
Absolutely.
They're not going anywhere because they have no pitching, but they're going to be fun to watch.
100%.
I mean, that's probably one of the best offenses,
Right.
at least in the American League. If you think of, and they're all they kind of give me 2023 Baltimore vibes.
Yep.
Right.
Of holy cow, these kids are amazing, but their
Right.
pitching's just atrocious.
100%.
I feel like the Athletics probably have more money to throw down the road. They are never going to, but that will be interesting. Side note, did you
At
guys
least
see
not
Joey?
till they get to Vegas.
Yeah, did you guys see Joey Meneses is on the Athletics? I'm just looking at that right now. Now the second part. I want to jump. What are you guys looking at in the Cardinals and Cubs camp? So, Michael, you go first. What you looking at specifically in detail for the Cubbies spring training?
Yeah, one quick other note I forgot to make earlier was Minnesota. I am super confused with what they're doing. They looked like they had a ton of direction at the trade deadline last year, and then they hold on to Pablo Lopez. They hold on to Byron Buxton, and then my boy. All three this offseason. Super weird because that team's not going anywhere as it's currently constructed. So
And they
very
signed
odd.
Josh Bell.
Yeah, it's the guy that's definitely getting moved at the deadline. At least they got that going for him, I guess.
Oh, they signed Taylor Rogers too. I forgot about that.
And Victor Carantini. That's their big moves. So
Well, hey, they needed those guys.
yeah. No, so I'm really watching, ironically, a pitcher, Jackson Wiggins. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with him in spring training this year. He's the Cubs' top pitching prospect. And so we haven't really developed a solid pitcher in a while. So kind of intrigued to see how that.
I feel that.
Intrigued to see because everything I've read, he's got 1-2 type potential. So intrigued to see if he actually steps into that. Obviously, with the off-season move of Cabrera, I think that kind of helps take a little pressure off the fact of trying to get him ready for this year. But I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to do. I'm intrigued to see what the Cubs do with Matt Shaw. Everything I'm reading currently indicates they are not currently shopping Nico Horner. So we will see. But, I think Nico Horner being on the Cubs is their best bet. We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
To win?
To win.
Yeah.
I think he is a glue guy that holds the whole thing together. One of those types of guys that you're like, how much value is he truly adding? You remove that piece, and then all of a sudden the team goes from first place to fourth place. It's one of those guys that you're like, yeah, he doesn't provide 40 home runs a year, but he saved X amount of runs that kept the team in the game, or something like that. So I'm really intrigued to see what they do with Matt Shaw, because obviously Bregman's taking third base. He's not taking second base from Horner unless they decide to move him, because Horner is one of the best second basemen in baseball.
I think he's the man. I think he's the.
Yeah.
Most likely. Like I said, I usually try to go pretty light on the guys, but I think the move to right field would be kind of interesting. I think he could make the move, but at the same time, maybe he just becomes a utility guy for a year, figuring out, is Ian Happ still the guy that we can count on out in left field? Kevin Alcantara, the Cubs' now top outfield prospect, after moving Owen Casey, does he step in or play into this at all this year? Most of last year, prior to the fact that, or going into last year, they were a lot higher on Kevin Alcantara than they were on Owen Casey. And then Owen Casey comes out last year and was absolutely raking. And they're like, oh, maybe this guy's actually a lot better than we were putting, eggs in his basket. He might legitimately be an option for us out in the outfield. So, really intrigued by, kind of our top couple prospects. Obviously, we talked about a few weeks ago, Ballesteros is going to have some say. The Cubs just have some really weird moves that are either going to have to be made. They're either going to have to pivot away from some prospects, or they're going to have to pivot into those prospects and, say a Suzuki and some of these guys that have been around for a little bit are going to be, on the market probably at the trade deadline, which. We'll see what happens with those. I'm intrigued by it. Ballesteros. The problem that Ballesteros has is he is not an MLB catcher. He probably could be like an emergency guy, or give a guy a day off or something type of catcher. But he cannot be your starting catcher. But his bat plays, and so you want to keep that guy in your lineup. But at the same time, say a Suzuki currently power wise provides more pop off his bat. So I'd say you're going to see some platooning out of that, even in spring training, would be my guess, between those two. And then Matt Shaw, haven't seen a whole lot about what they're doing with him right now. So whether he's getting some outfield touches, whether they're just having him play third base, I don't fully know, which kind of stresses me out a little bit, because I really am pretty high on Matt Shaw, especially after we decided he's our future and then moved old boy down to Houston. So, that's kind of stressful. But, I really liked our two minor league pickups, with, Chas McCormick, which is a guy, Brian's seen plenty of, random power out of that guy there in, Houston, that, hey, if we can get this guy as our random fourth outfielder and he's providing, every third game or something.
Speaking of, it's saying McCormick's a non-roster invite. So he's not on the 40 man?
No, because he was a minor league contract.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he signed a minor league deal.
And then, obviously, your boy, Dylan Carlson.
All right.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
I'm not.
I'm intrigued by it in the The thing, I think that he's one of those players that I think would greatly benefit from somebody telling him, look, I love the idea of the versatility of you being a switch hitter, but you're not good enough from either side of the plate, so you need to decide on one of them, because you're not providing enough from either side of the plate otherwise. But obviously he had some potential, Is it there? We will see. I'm glad the Cubs got him for something super low, and we're not having to put a whole lot of money into that basket, or extra years like the Cardinals had to a couple years back. So
let me ask you: is there a world? This is a little bit of a meme question, but it's honestly it's a good question. Is there a world where Dylan Carlson plays good enough to force Matt Shaw down to AAA, and he takes that bench spot?
I don't foresee that.
You don't think so?
I don't foresee no, because Shaw was up all year last year. I don't foresee that being the case. I truly think, at worst case, Shaw's going to be your utility guy that they're going to throw around all over the place. Because even if his bat's not, which his bat was not bad, it wasn't great, but by the end of the year he was starting to kind of find a groove. And he's willing to take walks, which a guy that's willing to take walks, I will always be happy to have out there on the field.
Especially as a young kid.
Correct. But, the spell, not Bellinger, Bregman, even Dansby Swanson every once in a while, Nico Horner.
And Horner,
those guys
yeah,
gonna need a day every once in a while. So, and like I said, he may get some rotations out in the outfield for Ian Happ or. I truly don't think they're going to try to stick Seiya Suzuki out there long term. If you watched him late in the year and watched him in the playoffs, that dude was terrified when that ball ended up in the air. He's sitting there shaking
right field and
as the
Wrigley
ball's
too
coming down.
Pretty sketch.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So,
they're definitely hoping that. I think they're hoping McCormick or Carlson at least makes the team, and they'll probably be your right fielder. And Suzuki goes back to DHing because, you do have, again, you've got Tyler Austin, who's slated as an outfield first baseman that could go out there as well for days off. I think you're absolutely right, Michael. I think Shaw becomes the rotation for second through third to give days off where needed. And then
it was more.
Go ahead, Tim.
It was more of a meme question. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. I know.
You're good. So, I'm pretty intrigued overall. I'm a little worried. I'm hoping Matt Boyd doesn't get a whole lot of innings in the WBC because I don't want him wasting valuable innings for the year. If he wants to come out and throw an inning, shutout ball or something, so the U.S. can win, I'm all in. But I don't want to see this guy throwing multiple games for 2 or 3 innings. I don't want to see that just because he's an innings guy. We saw it last year. He was phenomenal, but we exceeded his inning limit. And we don't need that. So,
right.
I'm really hopeful. The pitching staff on paper looks pretty good. But Cabrera is a huge question mark, what that guy is. But on paper, I really like our pitching staff this year, probably a lot more than I have in the last 5 years, which is not saying a whole lot because our pitching staff's been our major weak point for the last several years. Steele obviously coming back off of a major surgery. You just never know what you're getting. But I'm hoping Craig Counsell took some manager classes in the offseason. Maybe he talked with Pat Murphy, figured out how to actually coach a team.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's kind of
that's good. That's a good
really
one.
Funny.
Yeah, there's a clip right there.
So I'm gonna be watching the pitching, I think, the most, and then the right field situation. I'm really, really curious what Imanaga is gonna be. I mean, he's making a lot of money, and we assume they didn't think he was gonna take the offer, but we don't really know what they think.
True,
but what is even because he's pitching in the WBC as well. So what's he gonna come out? But down the stretch, he was horrible for the team.
Yes.
What's going to look like coming out of the gate? And then do you know when Steele's coming back?
Steele, I believe, should be ready very early in the year. Let me see.
So
he went out in April, so he's a full year in April, which I think you'll see him fairly early on in the season. Yeah, they may do a 6-man rotation.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either.
They're talking late April. They think he's going to be back potentially early May. Just depends how the ramp up goes.
He'll probably start in AAA to get for rehab and everything.
Oh yeah,
I would assume so.
Yeah, and then is your offense real in the sense of we know Bush is legit, we know Bregman's legit. What is PCA and what is? To be honest, I'm also watching Suzuki. He had a career year last year with adjustments, but that also coincided with him playing in DHing, not playing in the outfield. So 100%. If he's going to have to play in the outfield because of the roster makeup, that means his offense is translating differently. We're not going to know that in spring training. Those things don't reveal themselves unless there's something, in his plate discipline or in his contact, it's dipping and everything. But your team on paper is going to be good, but I'm curious about PCA. I'm really curious about PCA.
You have to be. Yeah. I mean, what happened with Tucker last year versus what we had seen the year prior with PCA, it was like, holy crap. And then Tucker goes out, of course, and PCA, turns into prime Javi Baez up there at the plate. And we're like, what is this guy doing? But I mean, when he was at his best last year, what we saw early in the year, yeah, I don't need him hitting 330. If that guy's batting 280 and getting on base at a high clip and he's providing some power, I don't need him hitting 45 home runs in the year. If that guy hits 25 to 30 home runs a year, but he's on base percentage, is 400, we're in a good spot with him because, I mean, he's an absolute devil on the bags when he's out there. The big part that he crushed himself late, middle part of the year last year was he started swinging for the fences because he did find a lot of power early in the year, and he went away from that small ball play. We talk VS2, it's a very similar type of guy. Like, sometimes you just got to put that bunt down, man. Like, I know it's kind of silly, but sometimes just putting that bunt down and just finding some open field, get to running a little bit out there, rather than going 1 for 17 or something. Get a little something going. It'll help you in the long run because you've got the speed if you get on the bags or if you put it in the gap. We don't need you to be our big power guy. We've got plenty of other power throughout the rest of the roster. So,
it is my dream to see a suicide squeeze. I want to see that so bad.
In person?
No, just in general. Like the last time a suicide squeeze happened,
very specific.
was that the one with the Angels, and Washington was like, I told him to do it. He didn't put the butt down. It's not my fault. And I was
like, we can go out to a backfield and make this happen.
No,
if you just need to see it in
Major League
purpose,
Baseball,
man.
in a Major League Baseball game. Come on now. Anyway, Brian, take us home with talking about the old Redbirds. What you looking at in spring training?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, obviously, it's going to center around the young guys. I mean, I want to see. I think we know what we have in Mason Wynn, so I'm not like super looking at his spring training per se, because I think he's going to be that guy. Yeah. But for me, I think obviously VS2 is going to be a big watch for me, especially with all the talk about the adjustments that he made. Obviously, JJ, he's going to get a lot of looks in spring training. So does the bat really play at the major league level? We know it played in the minor league system. On the pitching side, I think for me, my heart here, and maybe this guy can come out and surprise me, but right now I'm ready to trade him for a bag of peanuts, is Palante. Maybe he'll surprise me. So that, some of that is what I'm looking at. And honestly, one of the guys on the bench that I'm really kind of intrigued by would be Sajasi. I want to see if maybe there's a way he can steal a starting spot from someone like the likes of Gorman, if Gorman really does fall off the map. Does he become the guy that plays at third base consistently and Gorman falls into that little bit of a utility role? I don't think the Cardinals want that.
Yep.
Ultimately, because the raw power that is within Gorman.
Yeah. But
I could see a world in where that happens. I think from the prospect side of things, I mean, obviously, we're going to get a good look at Bernal at the WBC. So we're going to kind of at least get an idea of what he's going to be and what he can be. We already know what Herrera is, but can he be an everyday catcher?
Yeah.
That's going to be the big question. Can he be an everyday catcher? But then for me, I think, some of the minor league guys, I really do want to see if Baez can be the left fielder. Is he going to showcase some of that and really maybe make a case to be one of these, walk-on guys that become that fourth outfielder? Because, I mean, I think between Church and him, those are the two guys that they're legitimately looking at. The one swing and miss to this point in the offseason for the Cardinals is there's been no right-handed power addition. And that's the one thing that I think they're going to have to address unless Baez becomes that guy. So those are kind of the things for me. I mean, obviously, again, there's a lot of this is a team that's growing. This is a team. So I don't expect it to necessarily show up in the win column. but I want to see the progression. And then the final thing I'll say for me, and like my heart still is in on this guy, is Walker, man. I just really want to see him figure this out. Like, I'm with everybody as far as in the Cardinals front office. I don't want to give up on him. He's too young to give up on, but I have got to see some sort of plate discipline and some sort of power. I mean, it's like what you're saying with PCA, Michael, on that side. Like, I don't expect him to be prime Albert Pujols, like walking up to the plate. I just want to see some vast improvements. He showed me he can do the defensive improvements that are needed to play right field at an MLB level. Now I need to see if the bat can play, because if not, we're going to have some bigger questions to answer on that side of, the team than I think they're anticipating.
Yeah, those are good. I'm gonna go a little bit more detailed for a few specific players.
Go for it.
Because most of them, I do agree with most of those. I do agree with most of all of those. Two things I'm going to be watching on top of that is the two outfield additions that they just made. One of them is a waiver claim, and one of them was a minor league deal from the Mexican League, or what is that called?
Yep.
The winter leagues. They brought in two right-handed outfield bats, and that's been one of the things of the offseason that they're still going after. And both of those guys' profiles really fit exactly what they're searching for, but they also have yet to make it in the majors really well, so you never know. What are the things that they need to show in spring that will get them, a contract for the year, because they don't cost any money. But it would be interesting to see, because those are like the small moves on the margins that could make or break a team, like the Ernie Clement. And I'm not comparing these guys to Ernie Clement, but like your superstars need good players, like decent players around them. Yep. And our outfield offensively has just been atrocious for like 2 to 3 years. I'm really intrigued with the starting pitching, because we brought so many over. We went from having zero depth to having too much depth, because now we're kind of pushing too many players that are major league ready sitting in AAA. So I'm curious to see which of the starters are going to put themselves above the rest, because the guaranteed jobs are Liberatore, Dustin May, and probably Michael McGreevy. So there's 3 finished, and in between all of that, you've got Palante, Leahy, and then Fitz. I'm blanking on their names now. Let me switch to
Dobbins.
Fitz, Dobbins, and then Matthews is right there at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Eshawn Henderson is really close at the door. What happens if a few of these guys show up that they didn't expect to, and then Palante is just throwing meatballs over the plate and you can't figure it out?
Send him to Colorado, baby.
They'll love him. Then he'll be in Chicago in the White Sox.
Yeah,
uniform.
right. I'm looking at those specific things, and then in detail for a couple things. Mason Wynn, I'm actually really paying attention to in spring, because last year in his spring training, it was really, really bad. And spring training isn't about stat lines. There's underlying things that players are working on. But I think about last year with Mason Wynn and Wilson Contreras, how their springs went, translated to how the start of their season went. And Wynn specifically came off a pretty good year in 24, then had a horrible spring training and had an atrocious start to the season in 25. Figured it out, but then got hurt. So, like, how is his knee? How is his swing decisions? And then, I agree with you, Brian. Like, Victor Scott, I'm obviously watching. I'm curious, because he's getting close to that. Not getting close. He is here. He is kind of in the same camp as Gorman and Walker, in the sense of, like, this year, you've got to do something. Yeah. Offensively, you need to prove that you can make it, because there's going to be outfielders below that are vying for the job too. Yeah. So he has tools that nobody else on this team has, and honestly, not many people in baseball have, with that type of speed. And you really do want some of those guys. Baseball in itself is going to a more contact-oriented approach. It's not getting rid of power by any means, but contact is definitely getting more and more accepted, and you would love to have any team would love to have a guy that can hit three. And I'm not saying he's doing this, but any team would love to have a guy leading off who can hit 300 and steal 50 bases. He might hit 5 to 10 home runs, but man, that's a lot of runs to put in. So I'm curious. I'm really watching his approach. I'm not really paying attention to Jordan Walker, man. Like, if he's good, cool. If he's not, whatever.
I expected that from you.
Yeah. Newt Bar has just had 2 heels replaced, so we've not seen or heard anything from him the entire offseason. So, like, what the heck's going on? Is he alive? You know?
He's DH. He'll be DH, baby.
And then I'm paying attention to Gorman. I think he has to have a good spring, or honestly, I don't think he more than Walker to me is like he needs to have a good spring to make the roster. Like, I could see a world where Gorman goes to AAA or just stays on the bench, because I honestly think him and Sagasi are vying for the starting third base. Sagasi's got to do it too. One of them's going to end up on the bench, one of them not. And then last thing is, I know that Chaim Bloom has said in the offseason pretty repeatedly that he's a big believer in AAA, so he's not going to let anybody skip. But is there somebody that's we're not paying attention to, the guys that nobody's thinking about, but then to just show up, that can force a big decision? I think about Blaze Jordan. He's kind of like in this spot where we need a right-handed bat. He's got a lot of power and potential.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Can he put it together? Because he's like right there. I think that's pretty much it. That's a lot of things.
I mean, you're not gonna see some of these high profile guys that we just got, as far as from these trades. And when you talk about like Pete in the outfield, those guys, they're gonna stay in the AA, AAA system. I mean, you might see them jump between those two. But you're not going to see, I don't think you're going to see an ascension like you would have seen, even with Matthews to a degree, where it was so quick to move through the organization that he was kind of pushing the envelope. Because I don't even think Doyle is going to, he may get an opportunity in AAA to really shine, but I don't think he's going to sniff the major league roster this year. There's no need to burn a year of control with him when you're not realistically going to be in contention for anything.
He's not even invited to spring training anyway.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, he may get to AAA because he is pushing the envelope at AA really, really well. Yeah. Just so he could get some reps against some rehabbing major league players, things like that, so you can really see how his stuff is going to compete at the major league level. But you're not going to see him per se at the major league roster at this year, at least not in my opinion.
I do think you're right with the catching thing, Brian. I hadn't thought about it before, just because Bernal is going to be an interesting watch because he's going to start in AAA this year. Again, Bloom doesn't like skipping that level. So he's going to have to go to AAA and kind of blow it up and prove it. But he's had to be forced to the 40-man, so he can take that job just the same as long as his AAA stint goes really well.
Yes.
But with, the whole Yachty thing coming back, what does that look like with these 4 catchers that are kind of vying for 2 positions? Because Herrera will be an interesting watch, because I don't know that, I don't think the Cardinals think he can catch, but they have to give him the ability to try, because he hasn't had a great opportunity for it. So then you have 3 catchers below that, then 4 with Rodriguez coming, which is going to be a little bit away. But what if Herrera is actually really good? What if his arm got fixed and he can, he's got a laser? What do they do then? Because, and I'm not saying that's a high probability, right?
Right.
Because more than anything, his bat has to be there, so he's got to stay healthy.
Yep.
I think that is going to be a really interesting spring training watch, because it's somewhat health related, it's somewhat skill related. Bernal is supposed to be the catcher of the future, because he's got a good bat, he's good defensively already, he's got a great arm, he won a Gold Glove, he's really young.
Is Herrera
And if-
playing in the WBC?
He
Yes.
is. So is Bernal. They're both playing for Panama.
Yeah, they're both playing for Panama. Yep.
Which would be interesting to watch because it's like, which one's going to start at catcher more?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it with that. Like, for me, I mean, the beauty is we've got so much flexibility.
Yeah.
You know, and not to belabor this because, I mean, Burleson can move to left field. I'm not saying it's the ideal spot. He's going to start at first base, but he could potentially go there, which opens up first base for, you know, someone like Herrera or even Bernal. If Herrera does become the catcher, the beauty of Bernal is he's a switch hitting bat.
Yep.
That is going, if he can continue to hit at a high level as a switch hitter and be a solid defensive player, like he's going to win out in a lot of positional battles over a lot of other people.
Yeah. The interesting thing is Fangraphs doesn't have Crooks on the major league roster. They have him starting in AAA because of Pozo's contract, which I don't think is accurate because Pozo's the player that's
he's going to be a first baseman, right?
Yeah, the expendable contract. He's going to make that money no matter what. But.
Him and Pajes are going to be that way. Honestly, I think they have Pajes marked as the starting catcher right now.
Yeah, but
I just don't think that's accurate. I think one of those three has to be gone.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and that'll be interesting to see because if what we think is true and Herrera doesn't end up being a catcher, which they'll probably give him some certain amount of games and then figure it out it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Which of the three is the one that's going? Because Crooks is your prospect that you want to be good. Pajes is your defensive backup hypothetically, but Bernal is right there. So then, that catching situation is going to be interesting.
And Pajes, honestly, is not much better defensively than Herrera was, even with a weaker arm.
No,
he really is not that much better.
Yeah, and his best role is first baseman and bench off the bat.
He's a great second baseman.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a week and a half. Baseball season's here, and I'm stoked for it. Before we head out of here, let's talk about the WBC real quick. I know we talked about a lot. We're going to put some content out, but we haven't a ton. But I thought it'd be fun real quick to go over the pools and then maybe get some a little bit of like early predictions because that's fun and doesn't mean anything. So I'm going to throw the pools out there and then we can pick, who are the top two that we think is going to come out. So Pool A, and I think you guys have this in front of you, but Pool A is Puerto Rico, Cuba, Canada, Panama, and Colombia. And Pool B is U.S., Mexico, Italy, Great Britain, and Brazil. We'll just go with those two. Who do you guys think is going to come out of that on top with two of each pool going into the quarterfinals?
Go for it, Michael.
So obviously we all know that Pool A got really interesting over the last couple weeks with the fact that they have several of their primetime players are not eligible. They would have been the favorite. Yeah. And we're not talking like just guys, these are guys that are good in the winter leagues. Like we're talking like Lindor, Baez, Correa. Like these are primetime like all-star type level players in the MLB are not going to be there. So currently I have Cuba. This is tough. They've got that's
It's being played in Puerto Rico too. I feel like
I hate to go against Puerto Rico because I feel like they still have enough good players. Maybe Nolan Arenado somehow carries that team.
Arizona's hoping.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, I will. I'll lean into Puerto Rico, but Panama, I am really curious to see what they're going to do.
So Puerto Rico and number 2 is Panama?
Puerto Rico and Cuba.
Cuba, okay.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Cuba, interesting.
Yeah, I like it.
What about you, Brian?
For me, honestly, I think the surprise is going to be this. I'm going to throw Panama ends up winning that Pool A.
I can see it.
And I think, and maybe, again, this is just my love for the manager, but I'm going to say Puerto Rico finds a way to sneak in as that second team. I think right on their heels. I think we'll be Cuba in that sense. But man, I think Panama is going to surprise some people, especially in that pool.
I agree.
I agree with you. I think it's the other way, though. I think Puerto Rico probably still finds a way to come out on top, but I don't think Panama is that far behind. I think they're probably just like a win difference between the two. Canada, honestly, if you look at that that graph I sent you guys about, major league, minor league, and amateur talent, Canada has the most talent of the two, aside from Puerto Rico. But I think that Puerto Rican list was when the original list of the projected starters, so I think that's different.
Yeah,
but
probably.
At the same time, Canada, those guys are small. They're not all stars, and they're not MVP players. They're just major leaguers. But man, it's being played in Puerto Rico. I think that's going to be a big deal. Like, I think
big boost, big
deal.
boost. Yachty's going to suit up. He's going to catch, baby.
Yeah. Player manager, that'd be kind of cool. I'm gonna go Puerto Rico and Panama though. All right, we got Pool B. So we got the United States, Mexico, Italy, Great Britain, and Brazil.
Yeah, obviously we've got to go with the U.S. That team is the dream team. Of the basketball, in the 90s.
Watch them get bounced and not make it. How wild would that
it would
be?
100% be set up for that, like this year.
Yeah, that'd be horrible, but...
Correct.
Talk about script.
Shout out to Great Britain for getting better jerseys for this time. They don't look like Little League jerseys, but... Mexico's probably who you have to go. I really do like Italy's team a lot. And I think there's some major upside with a few of those hitters with, the Pasquatch, Cags, and some of those guys. Like, I think there's some legitimate talent on that team that, you get into a, 1-2 game or something late in the game and Cags just, pulls through, or the Pasquatch, one of those guys.
But Palante's pitching.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that definitely is a factor. So, anyways, if it gets into a marathon and it's 9-8 late in the game, I'll go the top two seeds, Mexico and the U.S. U.S. on top, of course.
Yeah, I'm assuming you got the same, Brian.
Yeah, I do. I mean, ultimately, I think that's what it's going to be. I honestly, like, one of the teams in this that I'm surprised and I will pay attention to is Brazil.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of one of those, nobody's really thinking about them. Yeah. And I feel like they could surprise some people. But ultimately, I think U.S. and Mexico figures it out. They're there, 1-2. Yeah. Italy's going to make it fun. Like you said, I think their offense is going to be much better. I just think their pitching is going to fall apart, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah. It would be a really fun environment for the U.S. and Great Britain to actually be really good in the WBC when they face each other. You know what I mean? Like, just for
right.
For memes and giggles. I do agree with you, Michael. I think Italy's a little bit of a sleeper. Maybe the next one they actually might have a running chance with some of those guys being a little bit older. Caglione had a really bad season last year, rookie season. But, in 3 years, and he's, finally turned it around and figured it out, that could be a good, setup for Italy. The U.S. is running away with it. I don't want to be too overconfident, and then, we not even make it out of the pool, but that literally is the bet. That we have the best pitching in the tournament, and that doesn't even talk about how good the offense is, and it's ridiculous.
Right.
But interestingly enough, Mexico just destroyed us last time. Like, we could not beat them to save our life. So I think Mexico comes out in second place. All right, let's jump over to Pool C and D. So I'm going to go in reverse. We'll go to Pool D because I think this one's a little more fun. They're playing in Miami. I guess I should say Pool B is happening in Houston. I don't think that makes a difference in that particular pool, but in Pool D, where they're playing in Miami, we have Venezuela, the DR, the Netherlands, Israel, and Nicaragua.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty easy. I'll jump on this one. I mean, obviously, the DR is going to just mop the floor with every team in this pool. And I think Venezuela is probably 2. They just have enough talent coming out of there that those will be the 1-2. I'd like to give the other teams a shot. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. I know. I haven't seen Nicaragua's roster pan out this or what it is this year, but I remember the last WBC rolled around and I looked at their roster and I was like, "Yo, this is actually kind of a nice roster." With the guys that were on that team, I'm not sure how they're shaping up right now, but
I'll pull it up for you.
Not much. I mean, Vientos.
Yeah, if that's the name you're pulling, that's not good.
Yeah.
No offense. But, yeah, the DR is literally an entire all-star roster from pitching to batting. Like, the entire team is excellent. In Venezuela, they've got a lot of really great players. I guess the one caveat is, like, I don't know how much of what has happened over the last, like, month and a half down there in the country. I don't know if that's affected any of the players or anything like that. As far as that goes, obviously they've got more major league talent on that team than some others, so I'd assume most of those guys probably aren't caught up in all that, but they may use that as fuel. But yeah, it's going to be the DR for sure winning that side. If they don't win that, that's like a 16 seed upsetting a 1 seed, I think. But yeah, it's the DR in Venezuela for sure.
Brian?
I said it. Yeah.
Oh, you
thing.
my bad.
Yeah. You're good.
So, I mean, yeah, the DR should run away with it hypothetically. I think the Netherlands are a little bit of a sleeper in this pool.
I mean, they got some talent.
Andrew Jones is managing it. Jurickson Profar stayed on Rafaela, which I think is really cool. Profar, actually, Jeremiah Profar, I guess that's Jurickson's brother. But then you've got Xander Bogaerts, Ozzy Albies. So there's some pretty decent talent. The pitching's not good enough to do anything. Kenley Jansen's closing out games, but I don't think they're going to need him.
Won't get to him.
Yeah,
I totally mixed those two up. It was the Netherlands I was thinking of. Yeah, it was the Netherlands that had a really nice roster last time.
Oh, not Nicaragua.
Because a lot of those, correct? Because Bogarts and all those guys. I was like, whoa, those guys are on that roster.
Yeah, I do think I do think you guys are right. Venezuela is probably the second best of the two. There's some really, really great players like Ranger Suarez, who just signed. It's gonna Pablo Lopez, Salvi Perez is gonna captain that team, and the one
they're like
thing
the Cardinals though. They've got like 40 catchers on that team.
Yeah, they are. Because there's technically 3. I mean, Wilson Contreras and William Contreras, which I think is really cool.
Wilson's going to play first, baby.
To be honest, I know the DR should run away with it, and I do think Pujols managing is a different factor than before. But they completely just blew up last year, and the DR couldn't go anywhere. Yep. So there is a chance for that to happen too. If that's the case, like. Just say hypothetically the DR can't figure it out and they just, get swamped. I think it's probably Venezuela and the Netherlands, right?
If the DR implodes,
yes.
Yeah. But they've got such a deep roster, it's just hard to believe they don't figure out a way to at least come in second place. Yes, the Netherlands, I think, will be competitive, but it's hard to imagine. Like I said, obviously it can happen, but they just have so much depth on that team. It's like looking at the Yankees or the Dodgers or one of these teams that are just super deep. Like the entire roster is great, not just like, they have 3 All-Stars. No, that entire roster is All-Star level players. So it's hard to believe that somebody's not going to figure it out for them.
I was looking at Israel because I was like, they've got to have. They just don't have a good enough team yet. Pitching, man, pitching is a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump over to the final, the Pool C, which should be the easiest one of the two. They are playing in Tokyo in Japan. We have Japan, Australia, Korea, Czechia, and Chinese Taipei, which I believe is just Taiwan. What do you guys think? Japan's, I mean, they're running away with it, but number 2 is interesting, I think.
Honestly, I think you might be a little surprised. I mean, yes, Japan's going to be the one that's going to be the front runner. I think they still have the names there, even though they're probably a little down in comparison to what they've been in previous years.
Yep.
The team that surprises me is Korea. Like, I think they can be much better than people are thinking.
Yeah.
They got Dane Dunning, man.
I know, right? Watch out. Resurgence. But like, my pick is those two that are going to come out.
Okay.
I would love nothing more than to see, like, Taipei pull something out. They're going to be a solid team. It would be amazing if Chesney would figure it out and somehow make a play.
Yeah.
Because there's always those fun, like, you're going to get the stories for some of these, rosters where these aren't, even professional players on that level.
Yeah.
They're just coming out to play for, the fun of it. And then they get their first hit off a major league starter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I really want Czechia I really want them to be good because it's a really, really fun story. But I think it's Japan, and probably I think I'm gonna pick Taipei over Korea, although those two are probably pretty close.
Yeah.
That's the hardest pool to watch because of the time. Like, we're having to wake up at 2 to 4 a.m. or staying up till it depends on your lifestyle. I remember catching Japan games, waking up really early for it, but we're gonna have to wait until the quarterfinals to see that one shake out, most likely. But man, I am excited for baseball in general to start. But the WBC is starting in early March, so we've got 3 weeks. And we're going to get some competitive games out of it, boys.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Stoked. Let's go. But that's going to be it for us. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it through, give us a couple comments. Give me some comments about what are the off-season moves you think were set up the teams the best. What teams you looking at in the spring training. And if you disagree with us with any of the WBC, I feel like it's pretty on paper. Yeah. But baseball's a weird sport, man. It's a really weird sport. Czechia could win all of it. You never know.
That'd be amazing. Not really, but it would be fun to watch.
Yes, it would be. But we appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys in the next one.